Want to make a case right now about who the worst commissioner in the history of Major League Baseball is. And a lot of people believe it's Rob Manfred, and I'm willing to listen. Like I said, comment any way you possibly can, and I'll respond to every comment that I hear or get on the Past Ball show. Rob Manfred has done some things that have been questionable. Kennesaw Mountain Landis is probably considered one of the worst commissioners in all of Major League Baseball history, and a reason that stands out is he went out of his way to keep integration from happening into baseball because he didn't like black people. Now, I feel like there's a different commissioner that should be considered the worst of all time, and his name is Bud Selig. Bud Selig, I don't like the way that he even took over as commissioner of Major League Baseball. If you remember, it was around the time Bart Giamatti passed away, Fay Vincent took over. Bud Selig, for years, was involved in the ownership group of the Milwaukee Brewers. Prior to that, was involved with the Milwaukee Braves, and obviously had an affinity for Hank Aaron, which I'm going to talk about in a little bit. But his place as an owner in Major League Baseball kind of made it a conflict of interest for him to become even the acting commissioner of Major League Baseball. So that's kind of part number one. I'm not so keen on Bud Selig for that reason. And then obviously as that happens, there is that clear conflict of interest. And basically the reason he forced Fay Vincent out was because him and the other owners wanted to push for a salary cap in Major League Baseball. Led to a stronger divide between the owners and the players, and the strike that we saw in the 1994 season, which of course resulted in a cancellation of postseason. For the first time, there's no World Series in 90 years. And I think Bud Selig had a lot to do with that. Of course, baseball regains itself because the trust of the consumer, which is the fan, is destroyed at that time. I remember being a kind of a younger baseball fan saying, why am I going to want to follow a game that the individual players and the owners care more about themselves than the very product that I'm here to consume and enjoy? What brings baseball back? The home run chase of 1998. And this is, of course, Bud Selig in the front row, cheering on Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa as fans are packing the stadiums again. And all of a sudden, baseball's coming back for the first time since the fans' distrust gained during the strike of 1994. He's there. He is cheering on Sammy Sosa and Mark McGwire. And of course, it's not until Congress gets involved that he starts to take a firm stance on the use of performance-enhancing drugs in the sport. Now, I'm going to make it clear. I'm going to say a lot of disparaging things about Bud Selig here. I'm not going to believe that he was pro-steroids. Everything that he says in regards to not wanting the game to be involved that way, I'm taking his word for it. I think as a commissioner, as the guy that's overseeing the whole sport, it's very hard to get into the locker rooms and figure out exactly what it is that the players are taking. I think he could have been a little more proactive, particularly during the home run chase of McGwire and Bonds in Sosa in 1998. The same stance that he ended up taking for Barry Bonds. And really one of the things that frustrate me the most is the combination of his love affinity for Hank Aaron, who I think is an all-time great, one of the greatest hitters baseball has ever seen. Everything that Hank Aaron went through during the home run chase of the all-time record of Babe Ruth is stuff that he should not have had to go through. I'm a huge Hank Aaron fan. Problem is records are made to be broken. And Bud Selig put his own personal affinity for Hank Aaron over the treatment of Barry Bonds and the rest of his career. And Barry Bonds, obviously we know, breaks the single season home run record in 2001, ends up becoming an immortal where nobody wants to even pitch to him. He gets one pitch to hit a game, and he's likely to hit that out of the park. Probably one of the most dominant players over a certain stretch of time that the game of baseball has ever seen. Barry Bonds breaks Hank Aaron's home run record, which I know pissed off Bud Selig. Bud Selig couldn't stand this. This really got under his skin. And I believe that he colluded with the other owners of Major League Baseball to keep Barry Bonds from playing after the 2007 season. Barry Bonds becomes a free agent after 2007. He breaks Aaron's all-time home run record, has 762 home runs, and Bud Selig is involved in some way, shape, or form of keeping the Giants and every other team for signing him, prolonging his career. And if this is the case, this has to be brought up to Bud Selig, and this has to be considered when you're thinking who is the worst commissioner in all of Major League Baseball history. Barry Bonds' season finishes with an over 1,000 OPS. He hits 26 home runs. There's 30 teams in Major League Baseball. 15 are playing in the American League. So if Barry Bonds cannot play the outfield, which may disqualify him for some National League team, there is an American League team out there that can employ him as the DH for the 2008 and probably 2009 and 2010 season. Bud Selig has something to do with the fact that he doesn't sign with anybody as a free agent. Next, Bud Selig conveniently, in my opinion, retires as commissioner in 2015 because I think he's up to something else. Not only am I holding him responsible for Barry Bonds' career ending, I'm also going to hold him responsible for Alex Rodriguez and his career ending. There's no doubt that it's proven that Bud Selig doesn't like Alex Rodriguez. Maybe it's the steroids thing. Maybe it's the fact that, A-Rod could be a little pompous or arrogant or whatever. There might be many different reasons to dislike Alex Rodriguez, but whatever ones that Bud Selig chooses, he chooses. He's going to go out of his way to end Alex Rodriguez's career. It's the suspension that's put in for the rest of the 2013 season and the entire 2014 season, basically delaying the possibility that he can go chase some home run records. Rodriguez at that point got well over 600 home runs, is certainly a threat to get into the 700 category where he can not only pass Babe Ruth, but Hank Aaron and maybe even Barry Bonds. Bud Selig doesn't want this to happen under his watch, but he is smart enough to say, hey, if I single-handedly or had a lot to do with Barry Bonds' career ending, I also don't want to be responsible for Alex Rodriguez. Rob Manfred comes in, becomes commissioner. Under this, behind the scenes, Bud Selig is working to eliminate Alex Rodriguez from playing baseball. First, the suspension, then he comes back. Hopefully, in Selig's eyes, Alex got nothing left to show. He goes out there, he hits 33 home runs as a designated hitter for the New York Yankees in 2015. Sitting there with 696 home runs. And the next season, I'm confident that he got a hold of Hal Steinbrenner. I'm confident that he spoke directly to people in the Yankees organization saying, hey, can you not play Alex Rodriguez in 151 games? Can you not give him a chance to have another 33 home runs and get to 700 and break, past Babe Ruth and possibly challenge to, Hank Aaron and eventually Barry Bonds? He doesn't want this to happen on this watch. I think he is involved in the Yankees' plan for A-Rod in 2016. Why else would he hit 33 home runs in 2015 and all of a sudden kind of be a side note for the New York Yankees? And by the way, not only is he signed through the 2016 season, but he signed another year in 2017. I think he goes from the control panel, he voices himself in, says, hey, the Yankees at some point got to do something with A-Rod, get him off the team. The Yankees plan a day for him, they honor him, they release him, they eat the rest of his contract, which includes the 2017 season. 29 other teams in baseball have a chance to sign him, not only for the rest of 2016, but for 2017. Nobody does. I don't think this is a situation where all these teams individually are like, hey, I don't want A-Rod to be part of my team. Something systematically has to be put into place. Something has to be colluded amongst the owners of Major League Baseball. Similar to banning Bonds from playing after 2007, the owners were told, and I promise you, they were told not to sign Alex Rodriguez. Why else would somebody not sign him to hit 4 home runs? Alex Rodriguez is one of the most prideful baseball players that cares about himself, cares about his legacy. Why is he going to suddenly stop playing baseball voluntarily when he's 4 home runs short of getting to 700? I got a problem with that. And I'm blaming the commissioner. I'm blaming Bud Selig. Another thing I'm going to point to is going back to Barry Bonds. When Barry Bonds was stopped playing after the 2007 season, he fell a little bit short. 2,935 hits, 1,996 runs batted in. Both accomplishments that I'm sure he would have liked to fulfill if he could. Alex Rodriguez in 2015, probably surprising to Selig because he thought that by suspending him for the entire 2014 season, A-Rod's career would kind of wash itself out. A-Rod landed some milestones. 2,000 runs scored, 3,000 hits, 2,000 RBIs. Selig didn't want him to get to 700 home runs. Certainly didn't want him to pass Babe Ruth. Certainly didn't want a threat for him to pass his beloved Hank Aaron. And I look at it and I'm trying to say, hey, is Bud Selig a worse commissioner than Kennesaw Mountain Landis? And Kennesaw Mountain Landis took over baseball at a time where they needed somebody to kind of enforce some rules. Players were running rampant, gambling became a thing. The 1919 Black Sox damn near destroyed baseball. Kennesaw Mountain Landis put the sport back on the map again. But he also was a racist. He also did everything he could, literally said that black players were going to play on the same field as white players over my dead body. And there was no chance of that happening until he died. So while I believe that Kennesaw Mountain Landis had a worse act as commissioner in Major League Baseball history, I think Bud Selig was the worst commissioner in the history of Major League Baseball.